Donald Trump Jr. is facing some tough questions today about his knowledge of Russian government efforts to interfere in the 2016 election. The New York Times is reporting that Trump Jr. was told in an email in June of last year that the Russian government was trying to help his father's candidacy. He has promised to cooperate with Congress.
For more, we turn to Zeke Miller, a CBSN political contributor and White House correspondent for Time. Zeke, how is the White House responding to this new report, and is the president under pressure to address it publicly?
On that first question there, how the White House is addressing it, we heard yesterday from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House Deputy Press Secretary, who had said again that the White House is maintaining, the president maintains that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government or agents of Russia in 2016. But beyond that, they're deferring all comment to the president's outside counsel, Mark Kasowitz, and his spokesman, Mark Corallo, as well as the statements by Donald Trump Jr. and his attorney. They're really not providing any sort of real substantive pushback here, and despite that the revelation of this meeting does contradict statements offered by White House officials over the last several months. And on that second point, sort of, this certainly does increase pressure on the president to come out and address this forcefully. We've seen, his sort of constantly muddled comments about Russia over the last several months. Coming off the meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday, there certainly is heightened interest in this issue just this week. So we haven't heard from the president around any of these issues publicly in quite some time. So certainly this has sort of lit a new fire in the public and among the press corps to try to get more answers from the president himself on this.
Yeah, and Zeke, the president has been retweeting and tweeting ferociously this morning, but no mention of what's happening with his son. Trump Jr. says he's ready to cooperate. He's willing to talk to anybody who wants to talk to him in terms of the investigation. There are 3 investigations into the possibility of Russian meddling in the election. What's the likelihood we will see him testify publicly?
That seems to be a bit unlikely. It's far, talking to attorneys for other people involved in this investigation, they've all been very wary of having any of their clients testify publicly before Congress. That's a very it's a daunting process, for anyone, and particularly folks who've not been in elective office or sort of served in government. It's fairly rare for that to happen. It's far more likely that he meets privately with investigators and potentially a closed session of either the House or the Senate Intelligence Committees, and then certainly some sort of interview from the special counsel or the FBI, which is sort of working with the special counsel as part of that 3rd investigation.
So John Dickerson has pointed out today that the email, this new email alone, is not necessarily evidence of collusion, but that it does show that Trump Jr. was, quote, collusion curious. That's John's words. What's your take on this part of the case and this new revelation?
I really couldn't have said it better. I mean, certainly this is this does show the intent here of the of President Trump's son, looking for any advantage from any source, with really willing to entertain the prospect of information coming from at least a Russian national, sort of depending on the exact wording of that email that he got, sort of potentially somebody connected to the Russian government, information from the Russian government to help his father's campaign, and not reporting that to any law enforcement, and then is obfuscating about the actual true nature of that meeting until he was proven to be false. The statement he put out Saturday suggesting that this meeting was solely about Russian adoptions, and then 24 hours later presented with evidence to the contrary, finally set the record straight. So there is a question of intent there. Whether or not there's any substance, that's only the investigations will tell us there, but certainly he was open to this sort of contact.
Yeah, Zeke, that's what I wanted to ask you about. We've seen this with other people, but in this case, Donald Trump Jr. never mentioned this meeting until it was revealed by a reporter's hard work. And then, like you mentioned, the story has continued to evolve over the last few days. I wouldn't say it was a cover-up, but certainly he wasn't forthcoming initially. And is that as interesting as the meeting itself?
Yeah, I mean, there's that axiom that it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. That's sort of where we're at here. Not that there's necessarily a crime here or anything approaching that, but with regards to everything Russia, whether it be the meetings with Sergei Kislyak that Mike Flynn or Jared Kushner had, or Paul Manafort's work for lobbying clients. The issue in almost every one of these instances is not the substance of the matter. It's the way that they were handled by the Trump campaign, the Trump transition, and the Trump White House, and often the president himself not telling the full truth, often, if not lying, sort of misstating or obfuscating facts in ways that try to conceal communications with Russian officials. So the question is why? We don't know the answer to that. It could just be because of the reflexive concern the president has about anything to do with Russia and concerns about his legitimacy, the legitimacy of his election on November 8th, or it could be because there is actually a real substance there, and that's why these investigations are going to continue to run their course, and that's why there's bipartisan backing behind those investigations.
It was not clear to me, Zeke, from reading the New York Times report, whether Kushner and Manafort were aware of this email that Donald Trump Jr. had allegedly been sent, saying that this was government information from Moscow. Does that make a difference, especially because Trump Jr. and Manafort are not in the administration, whereas Kushner is, and he is a senior advisor to the president?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly one of those things that, did he forward that email to to either Manafort or Kushner or somebody's assistant to try to set up that meeting? That's one of those things that certainly the special counsel and the congressional committees will look at, because that would be a very important piece of evidence. This really only came to light because Jared Kushner had to amend his SF-86, his national security disclosure, after leaving off all sorts of meetings with foreign nationals from that form, as he should have disclosed when he first entered the administration. So there is sort of a real sort of with Jared Kushner serving in the administration, there are additional there's additional scrutiny that would apply to him in this case. But really, for anyone involved in that meeting, if they the questions that they would face, if the substance of this report does prove out, for not going to the FBI, for not going to law enforcement, is the sort of thing that the special counsel certainly will want to know about.
Zeke Miller, thanks a lot.
Thank you.